Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats, talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. All right, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom Podcast. This is our director spotlight, and the director under that light is Wes Anderson. Film 3 of 9, including Asteroid City at the end. This is the Darjeeling Limited, released October 26, 2007, with cinematography by Robert Yeoman, written by Wes Anderson, Roman Coppola, and Jason Schwartzman, and directed by Wes Anderson.
Coppola? Is there a
Yes,
relation?
there is a connection there, and a few connections there, and we will get to that. I am Colton Robertson. I am joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. Yes, there is a relation to that Coppola. Francis Ford Coppola is related to both Roman Coppola and Jason Schwartzman.
Okay. Wow. I was going to say, because this is the first time that I actually watched any real life stuff with Wes Anderson after this movie. I'm like, I just got to know what his thoughts were on this movie for some reason. I really needed to know. And he went out to India with 2 other people, and I think one of them, it was Roman Coppola and Jason Schwartzman, I think.
And Jason Schwartzman plays Jack.
Yeah. And, like, it just made this movie so much, like, I already felt that it was real, and that this was just, I don't know, all of his movies seem just like, it's very funny and a comedy, sure, but, like, all of the things that he focuses on are very real problems in very real life, and this was, I don't know, he actually went out to India and he traveled by train, did exactly what they did. Not exactly, but
a lot of what they did, yeah.
And I don't know, it was just really, really cool to see, like...
Nah, man, that, I love this movie. I love this movie. But that Coppola family tree, it spans a bit. Because Francis Ford Coppola's sister is 𝘿𝘼𝙍𝙍𝙁, who you've probably heard of because she is the leading love interest in the Rocky films.
Okay.
She is, what's her name in those? Fuck. It's gonna kill me.
I'm terrible with names, but I'll pull up IMDb.
Adrian! It's Adrian. Yeah, so she's Francis Ford Coppola's sister and Jason Schwartzman's mom. So Jason Schwartzman is the product of 𝘿𝘼𝙍𝙍𝙁, the lead actress in the Rocky movies, the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, and the cousin to Nick Cage, who is 𝘿𝘼𝙍𝙍's sibling, August Coppola's kid.
We got connections.
Yeah.
For this one. Oh, man, it's all connected.
Yeah, that's a big Hollywood family over there, the Coppolas.
Wow.
Sofia Coppola, another director who I have interest in making a part of this project at some point, and that's Francis Ford Coppola's daughter. So it's a big family over there. But yeah, Jason Schwartzman, very, very, like, I love this movie, and I love every single role in this movie. I think Owen Wilson is fantastic as Francis, Adrian Brody is wonderful as Peter, and Jason Schwartzman is awesome as Jack. I think they captured that brotherly essence so fucking perfectly. Like,
I mean,
it made me happy as fuck.
I wonder, like, because I actually have a younger brother. I have an older sister, so I don't have, like, 2 brothers. But, like, I don't know, I have siblings, so, like, I understand some of the things that happen in this movie. But I wonder, like, if being an only child and watching this movie, how different that is. And, like, I don't think it really diminishes from the movie at all. I think that it really enhanced, like, just seeing, like, all the sibling stuff.
It did, man. Because I am I have two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the oldest. I would be the Francis. My brother would be the Quentin would be the Peter, and Griffin would be the Jack. And I'd like to think that we have a little bit, and that's what's interesting is that these three, the relationship they have at the beginning of this movie is obviously strained. They've been estranged for a while since their father's funeral. They haven't talked to each other in a year. This is their chance to reconnect and stuff. And, you know, I can't tell you that me and my siblings have a relationship like this because one of them's 13. One of them's in college, you know, like we haven't matured to a point where we can reach this point of estrangement. You know what I'm saying? So like, but even so, there's still this essence when they argue and they nitpick at each other, and there's certain things they do where it's just like 100% believable as a sibling relationship, and it makes me very happy. That there's that part where you know, Adrian Brody, Peter, is shaving in the mirror, and he's like, "Is that Dad's razor? You know, he wouldn't want you to have that, you know." And he's like, he told me I was his favorite as he laid there bleeding, dying in the street. And it's like, my God, that like there are only certain people who you can come for the throat for like that and get away with it, and it's your sibling. You know what I'm saying?
Because Francis comes up, he's like, "Yeah, I don't think Dad would like you using that. It's just not
Jack
what he would have wanted." And he's like,
and Jack agrees, and Jack's like, "Stop including me." Like that was like that whole part is fucking perfect.
And I love like they all have their own, you know, way different personalities. Like, you know, Francis, he's very on the dot, has his laminated freaking time cards, you know, made that this is all, I don't know, he's very by the book, by the minute. And then you have, you know, Peter, just very going with the flow, doesn't really care a whole lot. Jack just kind of, I just find him hilarious. Like, I don't know, like he's just kind of there, you know, and then like, but like I start to like him more. Like at the beginning of the movie, I'm like, okay, Francis and Peter, like they're like kind of the more main characters, and Jack is just kind of like there. But then I'm like, wait, I don't know, like
Jack's a certain glue in this situation.
Yeah.
They all, and like that's what's interesting is that they all have their one-on-one moments where it is like one of my favorite scenes, and I'll just go ahead and spoil it. My favorite scene is the airport at the end, towards the end, whenever they're about to leave the country, and Peter's talking to Jack one-on-one. He's like, I love the smell of this place. I'll never forget it. It's kind of spicy. And then he looks over at Francis. He goes, "Who's he talking to?" And then they speculate for a second. Then Francis walks over. Jack goes to the phone. Or Francis walks over. Peter goes to the phone, and they talk for a second. Then he's like, "Who's he talking to?" And it's just this perfect encapsulation of how siblings have this way of like not talking to each other, even though they are connected to each other more so than anybody else on earth. You know, like that is your person. Like those are your people. You are of the same bloodline, and still somehow you find yourself not talking to them as much as you would some other people. And like, even though they are talking to each other when they step away, they're still not going, "Hey, I'm going to go call this person." They're not being vulnerable with each other in this situation, which I thought was like, they speculate though, and they know each other well enough to know who the other person's talking to without them saying who they're talking to. And then to follow that scene with what is probably the most vulnerable coming together scene with them all shaving in the bathroom or touching up there, and he pulls off the bandages and he delivers that line, "I guess I've still got some healing to do." And then Jack says, "But you're getting there." And bro, that part, I melt. That's another one where I just like, I start like, crying.
How does he do it, man? It's like the whole movie is just a hodgepodge of weird ass funny stuff that's going on, and then when he wants to get serious and actually make you feel something, it's just like bam, a brick wall out of nowhere. Because I mean, that's the scene I was thinking of, like the scene that popped into my mind. Was like the funeral whenever they were about to leave, but then they're like, "Hey, you're invited for the funeral." They look at each other and they're like, instantly, they're like, yeah, all right, let's go.
No question about it. It's that scene's so good.
Pure silent, you know, like no one says anything. They're just walking through, you know, kind of like the ceremony. Then they get into the car.
That is my shot.
Them
walking out of the hut in the white ceremonial dress. and like them walking all the way through, and Jack like tosses the flowers, and I loved
that is a
that.
shot, huh? That is one.
Yep.
Yeah, that is. I guess I picked it as my scene, just more for, I don't know, because I thought of it as a scene, but really it is pretty much just one shot.
Well, I mean, like it does continue, like the funeral thereafter. Well, and that also like it's spliced with that flashback to Loftwolf Automotive.
That was okay. In the first time I was watching, I didn't know that it was a flashback right away, and I thought that this might be like in the future after they've already gone through everything, and I'm like, wait a minute, like what's going on? And then I don't know. It's like first watch of a Wes Anderson movie is very interesting. I don't know, like my mind goes everywhere, and then I'm like, okay, I don't know, I'm back in.
And it's always simpler than you think.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm learning now is that like and whenever you said that, like the line deliveries, how they're like they just say things. This is how we say things. Can we agree with it? Do we agree with this? Are we moving on? Like it is just kind of like that, like kind of the whole movie. And I thought whenever you first said it, I'm like, well, I don't know, that'd be kind of weird, and like I don't know if I would like that in a movie. If everything's just kind of said like that, and I don't know, not with a whole lot of emotion or anything, but like it just. I don't know how to explain it, but it just works for a movie like this. Like I think the reason they work so well is because when you go into a serious movie, you expect it to be serious the whole time, and you need it to be good, and you need everything to make sense, and you need all these things to happen and come together. But then with a movie like this, it's just like we're just filming like some experiences, and there's some funny moments, there's some emotional this is just life being filmed like on, I don't know, through a camera.
And that's what's so fascinating too, is that this one I would say more so than the previous. We've talked about this like almost journalistic touch that he has where he feels distant from the story and he's just displaying what things are. This breaks that mold a little bit for me. I think this one is more personal. It feels
the story like this is him. And like through Jack, I think it's like fully blatant. He's like, but the characters are all fictional and they're not made up. And then at the end, he makes that realization.
Dude.
So like I think Jack is like kind of
his
Wes.
stand-in.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I've made all of these movies and all of them are made up. The Life Aquatic, we just got very fantastical kind of movie, going out finding a jaguar shark and all this stuff, but like. The characters are all fictional, but all these things they come from somewhere. They come from experiences and everything. And, I don't know. I don't know. I was thinking about a line, and that might just be my line, is that like, well, the characters are all and then, like it was Jack's realization.
The way he
like
smiles there, and he's like, you know what, you guys get me. Like I can't, like when Adrian, or I call him Adrian Brody, but Peter, whenever he turns around and he goes, I like how mean you are. And it like there's so much in this movie that hits me like a ton of bricks. I will say, I don't know if this is my favorite so far. The Life Aquatic gives it a run for its money, but I do ultimately think I come down higher on this movie than I do The Life Aquatic, simply because it does feel much more personal and relatable to me. There's a deeper resonance that this has with me. But funny enough, it's funny that Francis is the oldest brother, Peter's the middle brother, and Jack's the little brother, because the one I find myself relating to the most is actually Peter, the middle brother. And they all have these elements of relatability, like the youngest brother's trying to be the peacekeeper and keep things in line. Like, don't include me, guys. Y'all need to stop. If y'all don't stop, I'm going to fucking mace you. Let's stop this real quick.
Face to face. Yeah.
And then Francis and Peter have this thing in common that they don't talk to each other about, where they are both trying. They're both trying their best, and neither is getting what they mean to say across or what they want to say across. And it just resonates really deeply with me. And ultimately, performance-wise, I had to go with Adrian Brody.
He shows Peter the most range, it seems, throughout the whole movie, that he just... Owen Wilson, like, I is crazy that, like, this is, like, like, I don't know, I don't see Owen Wilson like this. Like, I don't know, like, he does have funny moments, but, like, when he gets serious, it was nice, but Adrian Brody like had the whole time, even like because he had to always like with the glasses and like because they hurt his head because there was prescription. Like he had them sitting up on his forehead. And, like he was, I don't know, like there were so many things that were going like into his character, and then just the actual performance that he had to put on top of it, like just emotional part was great.
And there's a point where he steps into the bathroom at the beginning towards like he separates themselves, and I think he takes, I can't remember if it's Jack's short story, the Luftwaffe Automotive, and he's just staring at it like crying.
Yeah.
And that moment was strong as fuck, man. And this one is potentially more so than either of the last two, the most rewarding on rewatch, because there's so many allusions to things that you haven't seen yet. Like that scene where he's like, you got it exactly right. The way that I flip out about the briefcase and everything, and I try to steal it, and I go crazy, and they're like, he's like, the characters are all fictional, and then they show us what happened. That was all impeccable, you know, like and it only gets more rewarding the more you watch it. And there's actually I have this on Blu-ray, the Criterion Collection Blu-ray, which is really cool with a bunch of extra special features and stuff. There's actually a short film that accompanies this movie. It's called Part 1 of the DARJEELING Limited.
Yeah, I heard about this.
𝘍𝘼𝙍𝙁. And I watched it. I got a chance to watch it before this, and it doesn't add a ton. It's not like, oh, now I get Jack as a character. No, I mean, like he plays the same guy, but you get where his like sort of baggage is coming from, you know, because that's kind of the theme in this movie, like literally represented by baggage.
Oh, I loved that.
I loved it too. Dad's bags aren't going to make it, and then they have to let go of their baggage, let go of the past, and just commit to the future. Man, fantastic message.
That's what I was saying. Any shot that I was thinking of, that was my shot. You know, I guess I might have had them flipped. The funeral should be my favorite shot, and then them releasing their baggage should be the kind of like my favorite scene. But I kind of had them the other way, I guess, right now. I don't know. I love them actually just literally throwing their baggage away, like at the end. Like,
but the short film is it connects to the end of this movie whenever they're taking you through what looks like the train car, but is actually different locations represented by the train car. And Natalie Portman is just in it for like half a second.
Yeah, I'm like, that's gotta be Natalie Portman, right?
And she's Jack's ex, the one who says all of the like. She says, "If we fuck, I'm gonna feel like shit tomorrow." And he goes, "I don't care." You know, like that's what happens in 𝘍𝘼𝙍𝙁. So he's like, I have the ending, but I don't know how it starts yet. You get to see how it starts. It's just him at a hotel. And then she calls him up and is like, I'm going to be there in 30 minutes. And he's like, okay. And he gets all ready. And they seem to have already been on the rocks. And then she asks him, have you slept with anyone else? And he goes, no, like immediately. And he goes, have you slept with anyone else? And then there's like this, no. And he goes, that was a long pause. And it was like, so like, there's this funny dynamic where you get this idea that Jack's been in an unhealthy relationship, a relationship that wasn't good for him. And it's kind of displayed through that. And that's kind of the baggage he's carrying into this movie. I think it kind of contributes to why he's sort of a peacekeeping figure. He's like, let's just all get along, guys. Come on. Is this so hard? It's why he's self-isolating. It's why he, goes after Sweet Lime, as she's referred to by Francis, Rita, more appropriately.
What does he say? Like, I want that girl. I want that girl. Like, I don't know. You just see, like, I don't know, she comes in, hands him whatever, walks out, and he just, I want that girl more than anything. I forgot, like, I don't know, whatever he said, but he was like, I just want that girl more than anything right now. And I like this, it's such a crazy concept for a movie to have like these comedic aspects. Like it's like actually funny too. Like it's not just like some corny, cheesy jokes that they're thrown in there because they need it to be a comedy movie. It's like the comedy's only there to like pass the story. I don't know. Like it's not, the comedy's not the priority. You know, like it seems that the comedy is just an
It's a
afterthought or
product
like
of the
added in.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what makes it just so good. Is that it feels just so candid, almost. It's just like it's three brothers on a train, and what the fuck are they? They're just all gonna. What were they up on? What were they drinking? What was that like? Was that
I
just
like that
cough?
they all had their drug of choice. One of them had cough syrup. One of them had an opiate of some sort, and the other had what was Peter's like the eye drops that were like that he was just ingesting instead of dripping in his eyes.
There was. I feel like Francis
He had his
had a drop.
painkillers.
That was a drop, and he's like, "Oh, you should only take one or two," and then they just start like chugging it at the end. Or I don't know. I guess because it's all a little different.
Well, then Jason Schwartzman's Jack has like cough syrup sort of equivalent.
And then I felt like Peter had like just gigantic ass pills, but then I feel like that was like only for his like headaches or whatever. But then he also had something else, but I don't know what it was. But yeah, they all had something. That's for sure.
But that does connect to my favorite line of the movie where they're sitting down after they got kicked off the train. Jack turns on Claire de Lune, this just devastating song, dun dun dun, and Francis goes, "Let's get high." I've never been more summed up in a moment than turning on Claire de Lune and saying, "Let's get high." You know what I'm saying? Like that part speaks to my soul in a way that a lot of movies just don't. And I adored that moment because it's just a devastating song. It's a hauntingly beautiful song that, depending on the context of the scene it's in, it's always moving, but it's either devastating or it's incredibly uplifting.
Is that I'm just trying to get the song in my head. Is that like the slow piano where it's bum bum bum? Is it like okay? Yeah. I think I know.
It's also in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it's kind of
good.
Dun dun. Yeah, it's really strong. Dun dun dun. That shit goes, man. And but the let's get high, and then they all get high, and they discuss for a moment, and this was the moment where I related to Francis more than I did anybody else in the movie, because he's the older brother who's trying to fix things. He's trying to make things right. He doesn't want things to get estranged again. He wants everything to be okay, and he's like, "Let's agree. We meet back here in the spring when everything's better." And that's when Peter goes, "We will not be coming back here. That's just not going to happen." And it's like, I just so hardcore related to Francis's attempt to make things better, to try to keep optimistic point of view throughout all of this, and being kind of incapable of doing so because there's a more realistic view of the way things are supposed to go from Peter and Jack.
Yeah. And was it during this moment as well that they did the like peacock ritual thing and they all did it wrong? He's like, "I thought you guys said you read the instructions. You're supposed to blah 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 blow on it." No, it's like Jack let his just blow in the wind, and like he doesn't even know where his is now.
Like, where did your guys's go?
Like, you're supposed to bury it, right? So that's what actually.
They do get to do that eventually.
Yeah, Francis buried it, but then Peter just kept. He's like, "Oh well."
I did not get that. I did not get that.
But nice, like the follow up at the end. They all do it together, and like the little rock stand that they make though, like Jack's just stacking up the rocks, and like it just keeps getting smaller. And I'm like, okay, they'll stop on like the third one. They just kept going. I don't know. It's like little things like that. That's like, I don't know. It's not funny in the way that like Dumb and Dumber is funny.
No.
Like I'm not like, I don't know. It's not at all like that, but it's just like the situation that they're in is just funny innately, and then also just having these actors like act out. I don't know. It's so much fun to watch, and every movie so far that we've done for Wes Anderson, I've been like, okay, I'm definitely going to rewatch this movie at some point. That's without a doubt. There's no way I just watch this movie one time and I'm done. And it's only gotten increasingly more like that as I've gone on. Like this, I want to watch this more than The Life Aquatic again. Yeah. Not because maybe don't see it as like that much better than a movie, but I think this rewatch would be so much more rewarding.
There's a rewarding rewatch, man. Like I've watched this movie 3 times now, twice in the last 2 days. Because like that's how easy of a watch it is too. It can't speak highly enough of an hour and a half runtime either. If you can do this in an hour and a half runtime, you're fucking talented. And the way like this movie ends, and I'm like, already, but like we did everything the story needs to do. There is nothing that I'm like, you know what? I could have used a little bit more from there. I could have used a little bit more. No, like.
Yeah, at the end,
insane.
At the end, because this is my first watch, and at the end, I was taken by surprise that it was the end, not just because of like the story being fulfilled. I was just like, whoa! I'm like,
we're already there.
Like I'm like, holy fuck! Like I started the movie, I think at like 1 a.m. or like 1:30, and I'm like, I really hope I stay awake like this whole time, that I give it my full attention, and that like I don't start drifting. I was like in. I'm like, I did not start to drift off whatsoever. I was like more awake because of this movie, and at the end I'm like, oh my, no. Like I'm like, wait, like I kind of don't want it to end, but like it was very satisfying in how it ended though. So I don't want to make it seem that like I hated the ending or like that it took me off guard. It was just mainly like, oh wow, that was very fast and like, but also incredibly satisfying. Like you did everything you needed to do in that time. I guess I just expected to go back to see the mom at some. I don't know. I don't know her character name.
Patricia, I think.
Yeah, Patricia. I don't know. I kind of guess expected to go back and just I don't know, like them to. I don't know. That was the only thing I was expecting to happen again. But then by the end, I'm like, oh no, this is better. Like I like how it went now, and like I appreciate this.
It's another thing that adds to their sense of closure, this idea that this is something we need to put behind us. The idea that, because I think that what they did with their mom, Angelica Houston, once again, fucking fantastic. And her showing up and being like, yo, I told y'all this probably wasn't going to work. And then they confront her, they're like, this is the deal. I want to tell you about my son. What son? The son I'm going to have in a month. Shouldn't you be with her? Shouldn't you have been at Dad's funeral? Like that's and I didn't go. Why?
Yeah.
Didn't want to. Like
okay, yeah,
because there's this there's this thing that Patricia has realized about life and about the world that these 3 need to. And it's not that it's necessarily that she's good and that she's right in what she did. It's that you need to stop doing things because you feel like you have to. Do things because you want to do them. Don't do things because you owe it to other people. Don't do things because you feel some sort of obligation. Do what it is that you feel you are supposed to be doing. And if you are doing that, that's all you need. And she's like, that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm here. That's why I can't go back with you. Peter realizes that's what he's supposed to be raising his child. And he sort of realizes that as the movie goes on, he realizes he can't leave his wife and leave the kid or whatever. And and Peter seems to be the central figure simply because that's kind of the most important journey in my mind as far as any one of them singularly.
Yeah. No, Peter's death, I feel he's the most normal.
Right.
Out of all of them, So I guess like it's the easiest to kind of I'm not trying to say that Jack and Francis are weird or anything like that, but it's just like Francis has he has his very particular of how he does things.
Give me both your passports. I'm going to take your passports, okay?
Like, I mean, I definitely I struggled with this a lot in my earlier life. Like I was a control freak. I needed everything down to the minute. I probably like would have done this thing, like I don't know, similar things to him. And I've drawn. I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it now, but it was nice. I don't know, to just kind of see it in a movie and like have it be like, hey, don't do, like this is not, I don't know, like
letting go, man.
Yeah,
And that's what Patricia tries to tell them. Let go of what you feel like you have to do. Like Francis, his strict adherence to doing things by the minute, on the time, on the dot. Let go of that. Jack, he would not be going to Italy. You know, like that's what he lets go of. He lets go of the idea that he has to go back and see, like, because that's what he was always trying to escape to. You know, like he was like, I need to go to Italy. That's what I need to do. So I'm gonna leave early. I've got this plane ticket. I'm gonna dip. And there comes a point when he realizes that's what he feels like he has to do. It's not what he wants to do, and he lets go. He lets go of that, and like that's so, like the fact that the first two movies we've watched have been centrally about a father and son, or a father and his relationship to his kids. To semi flip that on its head, but maintain that is the central point of the movie, and that these kids are dealing with the passing of their father.
You never see the father whatsoever, but like
the presence in this film is
his razor, his luggage, his sunglass or his glasses, every little thing that pops up. You know, like I don't know, they when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, guys, all this luggage can't be this important. You know, I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, this is so annoying to carry all this around. And then I realized, like, midway through, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, it's a fucking metaphor. And I'm like, how did I not see it? You know, it's literal baggage. They're literally lugging all of their past. They're literally
holding on to something they shouldn't be holding on to.
And when I made that realization, I'm like, oh, okay. I need to just, I don't know, like, I'm thinking of the wrong things when I'm watching these movies. I'm thinking of, I don't know, like, I guess I'm not sure. I'm understanding Wes more and more as I go, and his movies are getting easier and easier to watch as I go. But I'm not gonna lie, they still kind of throw me for a loop every now and then, and I don't necessarily know where he's going.
Well, because they are supposed to make you think a little bit, but that's the fourth wall breaking contrivance of these films, is that like he's forcing you to think and come to the conclusion that it's simpler than you are thinking it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's bare bones. He is telling the story he is wanting to tell. You just have to see it, you know? And, one of the things that I loved about this movie and what it says about fathers and their relationships to their kids is we at no point get any idea what kind of dude their father was.
Yeah.
We don't know that he was a good father. We don't know that he was a bad father. We don't know that he wasn't around a lot. We don't know that he was there all the time. We don't know that he was super supportive of his kids
either. Like we know he died, but I was like,
got hit by a taxi apparently.
Like that was, I think, was that said like just much later on, or was it said?
Yeah, that was said in the automotive scene when they were trying to get his car.
Like,
and that's like the most. That's the most we learn about their dad in that scene.
Yeah,
is
the whole time I was thinking, like, was he caught up in some bad business? Was there something bigger that happened, like with his death, and they don't want to talk about? You know, like they're making it kind of seem that it's, you know, obviously it's traumatic and they don't want to talk about it, but they were kind of omitting some details on, you know. And I'm like, oh, I don't like. And then whenever they're like, yeah, he just got hit by a taxi, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's literally just that simple.
Yeah.
But the whole time I was kind of like, maybe there's something more going on with this father.
Well, there is something darkly comic about the idea of him getting hit by a taxi because he didn't have a car to drive in, which was left at that shop for a month, which is why they were so obsessed with getting the car, because they're like, if he had this car, he'd be fucking alive. He wouldn't have been walking on the goddamn street and got hit by a taxi.
I see. I didn't put that together till just now.
Third watch. That was a new thought on my third watch. There's also something I noticed for the first time that was like the most we learn about their dad, I think. And it's during that scene whenever Jack finds his book. And he goes, I guess he didn't get a chance to read it in time. And he opens it for the first time. The envelope had never been opened. And the dedication is for JLW, the abbreviations we'd been seeing all over the luggage. So it's like, oh man, like that one was like the most like, okay, maybe he wasn't exactly supportive all the time. which lends itself to another level of just like how kids love their fathers and look up to their fathers in a way, kind of regardless of how good they are to them, until they make their peace with the idea that maybe they weren't worth that. Maybe they weren't worth that feeling I had. And for them to make that realization and to drop the baggage, it's one of the most fulfilling moments in any of these movies so far, I
mean, it was like for Francis to have all of his, very control freak and by the minute have everything printed out. Then you get to see where he gets it from. It's not from his dad, it's from his mom where he gets that from. I mean, you get there and she's, is this all okay with you? I'll do this, I'll make you breakfast, I'll blah, 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 and then we'll do this. Okay, everyone agree? Yes, good. And then, so it was nice to know that, like, he got that from her and not from, and then, that moment was in the movie itself.
And then Peter was kind of the papa's boy. He's the one who ends up with all of his stuff. He takes it. He wears the glasses. He's cutting his face with his razor. Like, that's. And then I think that given those two pieces of information, gives us the best insight into Jack. Because, what Francis says to Jack at the beginning of the movie when they are deciding on beds. He's like, you go sleep in the extension. You're kind of the lone wolf anyway. He's always been isolating, and he's gotten to a point where he self-isolates because it's that situation where, you say no to invites so often that you stop being invited, but it's the inverse where, he wasn't always invited, so he stopped inviting himself, sort of thing. He isolated himself after being isolated by everyone else.
Man, poor Jack. I don't know, and just all of his little writing. Every time he'd read, like, there's a new little addition on my story. You want to read it? And it's like,
love it.
This is really great. Yeah, I love how this is blah blah blah, and how I did that, and like everything that they all realize, everything that they come back. Like you have Francis ripping up his itinerary and failing to do so because it's laminated, which is hilarious.
Another
hilarious.
Funny little thing. Yeah.
But like all the letting go of the bag, like everything, like I don't know, for every character, you have that moment for all of them, and it feels so good. Like it's three brothers on a train going through a journey, and like the movie doesn't really switch until that kid dies in the river, in that river accident or the little stream.
And that's one that just.
And it
again, like Peter is the one who needs to save his kid the most. I know they all need to save their kid, but mentally, if there is a person there who needs to know he can take care of a child the most, it's Peter. And I think there's something to the idea that he also immediately went for the one that was the most difficult to save. Like he found himself to be not just that he might have found himself to be the most capable, but that he's the one who's willing to leap to action that way. Like he is the one who's willing to save the one who's stuck and trying their hardest. But whenever he comes out of that river and there's like that silence and the heart thumping, boom, 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 boom. And Jack's like, he's covered in blood. Like, what a fucking turn, man.
Yeah.
Like, and then he's like, he's dead. I didn't save mine. There's always that fucking traumatic event in these Wes Anderson movies where somebody fucking dies or is about to die or is close to dying, and it's hard to watch. And whenever they walk back to the village, man, and I don't know if you recognize that actor as well. He was in Slumdog Millionaire as the absolute piece of shit.
Glad to, this is better of a role.
Oh, here. A lot better. But goddamn, when they are at that funeral and the guy like faints and he like falls under the water for a second, that's another one where I'm just like, oh, like I exhale and tears start flowing. And the way Peter again, like that's what's so cool about Peter is the way he's always like the first one to like spring to action. I think whenever the kids like tip over, he's the one who yells, go, like they're all on the same page though, like, and that's something that I loved about these three is no matter how difficult things got, and they were on different pages at times, whenever it was important, they were of one mind. You know, they knew exactly what they needed to do. And
I really liked whenever they were in the village afterwards. They gave the kids back, and then that like kind of other guy was just like, "Hey, all right, come here. Let's get you changed. Let's get you cleaned up, whatever." And then you have like Peter sitting like in front of like a baby carriage, and then eventually is holding the baby and like feeling like, you know, the little feet, little fingers, and he's like, "Oh, okay," you know, like so they, you know, Francis got them all in here to go on a spiritual journey, but really it's just so that they can go get their mom back. Right. But really, I think it was also they wanted to have like a spiritual journey because they needed to reconnect and everything. But the way that they had it all.
Once you learn who their mother is, it makes sense why Francis would be so obsessed with trying to go on a spiritual journey.
Yeah. It is okay. That makes even. It's not just to hide the fact that they're going to see their mother. It's that their mother herself went on her own. That. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Definitely. But then the actual spiritual journey that they go on is one through trauma. You know, a very traumatic experience, one that was unplanned, but brought them so much closer together. You know, through this experience, and it's not what they wanted. You know, obviously, no. They're not going to plan a trip and be like, well, let's hope that 2 out of 3 kids live and one of them dies, and we have to take them back to a village, and we go stronger because of that. Like, obviously,
this was not on the itinerary.
Yeah, but it was definitely the thing they kind of needed. I guess, you know, a moment like this to happen.
Well, I think it's important for all of them to realize something about themselves to an extent. You know, like there's an obvious drawn connection given the smash cut to the flashback when they're on their way to their father's funeral. This is the first funeral they're going to since their father's funeral, you know, and to be watching and witnessing a father mourn the loss of their son, you know, like that adds a whole other layer to it where they're thinking about how they lost their father and how they mourned their dad versus this father who's mourning their son. And I think it kind of gives them an opportunity to evaluate and project their father onto this guy and think about if this would have been the same, you know, like, is this how our father would have reacted to this reacted to this sort of thing? I think it kind of helps them move on a little bit in that sense as well. But, you know, all the stuff they go through here, it's just, it's so well done. And,
more animals. We get a tiger.
Tiger,
you know, and snake. I'm glad that they didn't kill the snake. Yeah. You know, and it came back around at the end.
That was the guy who kept the snake was the same guy who played Vikram in Life Aquatic. Another little actor connection. Yeah,
that's sick. I mean, is he the boyfriend of the girl? Like of?
Yes, I gotta think so.
Yeah. Oh, that's just I'm pretty sure. But I don't know.
𝘿𝘼𝙍𝙍𝙀𝙀.
I love the animal connection. Just in every movie, there's some animal connection in there somewhere. Wes just has to put it in there. But that's like because they're on the train. I'm trying to think of. I felt like they got on like a different train. Was it after the funeral? Was that to go back to? I'm trying to think. I'm still trying to, I guess, process this whole movie. But because I'm trying to think of the switch up. Like the movie was just fun, and we were getting there and setting up, just like getting you introduced and used to all the characters, and then the drama happens, and then boom.
You know, they get into that fight where Peter throws the belt in Francis's face, and another wonderful acting choice by Peter, where later on in the movie, he says, like, "I'm sorry, man, I didn't mean to hit you in the face." If you rewatch that, there's an expression on his face where he did not mean to do that. And maybe he did, but he immediately regretted it. And it's an incredible choice by Adrien Brody in like a millisecond of facial acting where like he was like resolve and then it like softened a little bit. And then Francis like charges at him screaming. They have to fight. He maces him. He runs up to the fucking door and smashes the glass and stuff.
I was trying to spread the love for performance, but I don't think anyone gets it other than Adrian Brody just kind of popped off this movie. Yeah, compared to everyone else, everyone else did great, but he really had to show a lot of range, and most of the emotional moments were through him.
It's outstanding how this project and Wes Anderson movies at large have kind of shifted my view of certain actors. Owen Wilson, I look at him a whole new way watching Wes Anderson movies. Bill Murray, big time one that I look at a different way after Wes Anderson movies.
Just for the cameo, just because, let's just get Bill Murray in here. Or I didn't get, I don't know if I missed something with him.
I don't think you did. I think they really want you. That was one that I think they do want you to kind of parse.
I know Bill Murray's in a lot of your movies, and I know, is that real? Is it like a meta thing, or is it just kind of like an in-movie sort of thing? Maybe think that this is the father, or
Yeah, I think he at the very least reminds Adrian Brody, Peter, of his dad. Because at the very beginning, he's the one who runs past him, hops on the train, and then kind of looks back at him, and they focus on that for a second, they key in on that detail, and I gotta think that there's something there, but there's not enough to go I could go all the way into this. No, he misses the train, and then we see him on a train later, they go through a lot of different things.
Was he not in the short before?
No, he was not in the short. He was not in the short. He's just kind of there. But that's the thing, is that I also don't know that he's on a train. There's a possibility that guy's not real. That he is a manifestation of Adrian Brody's imagination. But that's the thing. The movie kicks off with him racing through the streets. In a taxi, trying to get to his train. I don't know, man. Maybe there's
that's right. That's right. Okay. Because had the bags looked very, had the same kind of bags, that he was carrying, luggage.
No, I think there might be something there, because there's a lot of things here. Through that last little sequence, the places we see everybody. When we see Natalie Portman, that's actually the hotel room in Hotel Chevalier. It's just framed like it's on the train. When we see Brandon, he's actually in a plane, because you see the little door next to him and the buttons above him and stuff. So they're not actually on a train. The train's more like just a mechanism through which they decided to show these different aspects of life. And I do think there's an important detail that Bill Murray is the last one we see before they show us that tiger who famously mauled people to death. So I think there's something to the idea that maybe Bill Murray could be the representation of their father.
Yeah, because why choose Bill Murray? It's
right.
This is that's not a throwaway decision, unless it is literally just
something Wes Anderson wants you to notice. He has Bill Murray in a lot of his movies. Why he's gonna be there.
No, I like that. In a taxi on the way to the train. I don't know, the idea that
he misses the train.
Yeah.
That there's that's where his kids all are, and he's trying.
Wow.
He might be trying to get there, but he can't. And it's maybe that goes back to his lack of support for them and not being able to be there, even though he might have wanted to be.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't. Because I thought I missed something. Yeah, I'm man, maybe that was the other thing I thought that they would go back on. When the movie ended, I'm like, wait, yeah, Bill, or where was Bill Murray? Where he didn't come back. I guess I didn't know what I wanted him to do in the movie necessarily, but I thought it would be something just because it's Bill Murray. I thought, I don't know, there'd be some lines or some character interaction. I don't know, some bigger thing. But,
I do think it's important that Peter is the only one who sees him, and he's the one who is the most
medicine that he's taking
affected by him. So I like the hallucination on that train that he is their father.
On the train. No, I do like that, and I wonder because he has the glasses on, and I wonder if he takes them off. When he takes them off and he looks back, if it never shows Bill Murray again after that point. You know, like if he... Because, like, he gets onto the train and he looks back and he has his glasses on, but then he kind of, you know, he does the little raises them up and puts them in his forehead position. Mm. And I wonder if, like, if they never show him again or anything like... I don't know, because I'd say that probably fucks with your head, you know. That's not just headaches, you know. That having the wrong... prescription on right in front of your face the whole time.
Now I'm going even deeper into that last little train sequence because it shows Rita, who Jack hooked up with, immediately followed by Natalie Portman, his ex-girlfriend, showing what he is most concerned with within his mind. It next goes to Peter's pregnant wife, who he is the most concerned with at the time. And in between them, I think, was Brandon, who Francis is concerned with. I need to get Peter back or else I'm just I need to get Brandon back or else I'm kind of a dick. And then it shows the pregnant wife and Bill Murray, which would be who Peter is the most concerned with. His father and his coming fatherhood. I think that's something there. I think there's
man. Yeah, that's the thing that I can't, like, there's so many things that I know that I've missed that I can't wait to go back and watch again. Like, I can't, not even just to pick up on little details. I just want to watch the movie again just to watch it again. Like, it's just that good. Like, I just enjoyed it that much. But man, I don't know. There kind of is an aspect to his movies that they are very simple and that there isn't a lot more complex going on usually, and that he is just telling the story. But then
this one is the most cerebral yet. Yeah.
I don't know, some very deep stuff. It literally could just be, I like Bill Murray. I want him in on this movie. We're going to India to make a trip, and he can go to India with me, so it's an excuse to have Bill Murray to go on. Right. You know, it literally could be that. Or it could be that
it's important.
A little something. You know, these details don't feel like they're throwaway details.
No.
You know?
No, I'm with you 100%. I do think that is 100% the case. I think he was their father. It would also make the pairing, once again, Bill Murray and Anjelica Huston, which would be the meta kind of paralleling of The Life Aquatic in this, you know, like kind of going, they've played husband and wife before. You could, like, conceivably make that leap. So, like, I do think I'm 100% on board with the idea that he's not alive. That's an imaginary figure in Peter's mind.
The mother also plays the same role in the Royal Tenenbaums in here. A mother that, like, made sure that they were all smart and, like, made, you know, like, I got the itinerary, the minute by minute thing kind of leads to that. And then the Royal Tenenbaums, you have the mom that had their, you know, language lessons, and then you have, like, the father, well, not really Royal Tenenbaums. I don't know, but, like, it's very, maybe it's literally just Wes's story coming through in different parts of the world. Like, we get an aquatic movie, we get regular in a house, and then we get this one in India.
No, and that's what's so, like, the variety we've gotten, dude. Like, this is so satisfying to have these stories that end up coming back to similar themes of love and family and acceptance of each other and moving on and etc. You know, but to be, like, in the city with nothing, in one apartment building with your family, out on a boat in the ocean, going on an adventure, and then going on a cross-country trip in India on a train. Like, what an insanely creative mind that this man has, and his co-creators do. Like, this is
one thing I really liked, seeing the real, like, world interview with Wes talking about this movie. It was like I forgot who the news anchor guy, well, I don't know. So he was just on a show where it was like the movie's about to come out. It isn't out yet, but he's just doing marketing for it and stuff. But he was talking about the inspirations of the movie. And he said, I really just wanted to make a movie in India. I really love India just as a place. And he says, if you've never been there, you either love it or you hate it. You either step foot in India and you never want to come back because it's such a crazy culture shock, or you really like find this weird sense of just love
Connection.
for this place that you had no idea existed. And it is kind of crazy to think that like I walk outside my front door and, you know, it's just, that's what I see as like America, or like where I live. I go to the store, that's what I see. But like, if you get off an airport in India, the world, like, it is so different. Like, I mean, it's so like unimaginably different. And I think maybe that's like why he wanted to just go to India, to give people the idea that like, your world isn't everything, you know, like there is so much more going on, like so much else going on everywhere. And I think that's the location here. It just is perfect. It's foreign, you know, it's not normal to them. They're all out of their comfort zone. They're on a train, they're traveling, you know, it's like, it's perfect for the story, perfect for this movie. And I know the train was called the Darjeeling, like the train company, right, was called the Darjeeling Limited. But is
the
there
Darjeeling Limited, yeah.
Is that just made up, or is there like some? I've never heard Darjeeling. I didn't know if there was like some meaning behind that.
I do not know. I listened to some of the commentary on the Blu-ray, and it was cool because there is a train. They said that this was an actual train. They filmed on a train. It wasn't It wasn't like a set that they made look like a train. They filmed on a train.
Makes a lot of sense now because it looked pretty real. Like, I'm like, I don't know how they do this on a set. Sometimes I'm like, man, this is okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so it's actually called the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway. That is the actual name of the train, and so not the Darjeeling Limited, but the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway is the real train that goes across India. And yeah, I don't know, man. I've been falling in love with this guy's movies, and this one particularly, every time I watch it, gets better.
This one, after talking about it, it's my favorite. There's no, like, I don't like. I love Life Aquatic. It's close. It's definitely better than the Royal Tenenbaums, but it's on its own tier now.
Yeah, for me, we were talking. I always talk about the top 100 and how the stuff kind of moves in and out. Upon the rewatch here, this advanced to top 15 all-time favorites. And I only have 2 other Wes Anderson movies top 15. We haven't gotten to them yet. But I'll be interested to see if they still stand above it, because I have 2 more that are above the Darjeeling Limited.
I'm ready. Like, I already said that I was ready 2 movies in. This is the 3rd one, and I'm so, like, at first I'm like, okay, maybe we're doing a little too much Wes Anderson. You know, like, I love his movies, but like, maybe we should give the spotlight to someone else a little bit. But now I'm like fully, and I'm like, nah. I need.
That's the point of this, man. It's to relish in these creatives' styles and their movies, the things they wanted to create. And that's what's so awesome too, is that, like, you know, I would argue that you get more of that Wes Anderson idyllic flair for what the imagery is in The Life Aquatic than you do this. You know what I'm saying? And this is 3 years later. There's it's not a devolution in style, because he still maintains that Wes Anderson-y feel, you know, like there still is that element to it, but there's no shot in this movie that I would directly equate to the whole, like, let me show you my ship, and he's holding the ship, and it's like the pastel colors, and he takes you through one by one. Like, there's nothing quite like that in this movie. And it is more similar in visual language to the Royal Tenenbaums than it is the Life Aquatic. And it's interesting to see him be willing to adjust that style to make the movie work better, because one of the things that made this movie work so well is because it wasn't so set camera. It felt handheld, you know, when they're walking down that narrow aisle at the beginning of the movie and Owen Wilson's walking backwards and there's like this kind of shaky cam going on and it flips back to Jack and Peter. Like that's something that makes the movie feel intimate and small and kind of like we are in a close quarter, because they literally were. They had no other option. Like that's I adore it, man. I think this movie is not only the best so far, but my favorite as well. And I'm fairly confident in saying that.
Mike just took a dive. The stand it was on just came off the table. Anyways, I don't know. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I think I found my line though. As I was going through it was the only thing I wasn't I was going on. I'm between two, and there's one. It's Jack. I don't know why. Jack just has some lines here for me, but I wonder if the three of us would have been friends in real life, not as brothers, but as people.
Well, and that's a fantastic choice, but that's not just funny. That's like a hard hitting line.
Because then at the end,
if you have siblings,
yes, like it makes so much. It shouldn't make sense at all. Like you shouldn't have to even say that. You know, like it should be obvious. Like, oh, you're siblings. You obviously would be friends in another life, but like. It's
something worth questioning, you know, like especially if you are in a state that is strained and strenuous. Like, would we be friends if we weren't forced to be friends? Essentially, you know, like would we be friends if we didn't grow up in the same household and you were across the hall all the time? Would we still be friends that way? And I liked Peter's perspective of it when he responds and he goes, "We probably would have had a better chance." You know, like he's saying, like we're not friends because we're brothers. Whereas typically people view it as we are friends because we're siblings, you know, like, and he's like, we like each other less because we know each other that well.
Yeah. And then I don't know, it kind of comes around at the end, like, because he's always the one that's, you know, writing his stories and saying that it's not his real life, you know, it's characters, you know, and then he's the one to actually ask, like, I wonder if we would be, you know, it makes sense coming from him the most out of anyone, you know, and it is
the isolationist, funny. You know, the one who has always been alone. Like, it makes sense for him to question that, because I think there's part of him that wants to ask, would you guys still be friends with me? Not would we all be friends, you know?
Oh, Jack.
That's part of why Jack's my favorite character. I went with Jason Schwartzman as Jack as my favorite character of the movie. It was kind of a no-brainer, you know, like for me on a personal note, as far as the character who I loved seeing on screen. He was the funniest, but I think that was just a product of the lines he was provided in the script. Like he was funny. Like that part where he's like, you want to come smoke a cigarette with me in the bathroom? And then they like smash cut to them just fucking. Like that's incredible. But I loved me some Jack. He was the most he felt the most vulnerable with them, you know, like he didn't play it like he was the most vulnerable, but he certainly was, you know, like he's still the little brother, you know. And I think that's he plays it up like he's hard and steeled up, like he's like, you can't penetrate this facade I have going on. But no, like that question exactly is what kind of defines him as a character, is that he doesn't know if people would love him unless they were forced to love him. It's his contemplation with Natalie Portman. It's his contemplation with Rita. Are we only together because we're on the same train here? Well, thanks for using me. And he means it, but thank you for using me. And she's like, you're welcome, you know, like, of course.
I didn't even mean to do it, but I have all the three brothers in my performance character in line.
So do I.
Which I didn't mean to, but I do like that. Like I think Adrian Brody, it's kind of just undeniable for performance. But then character, I will go with Owen Wilson as Francis for me. I think it was easier.
That we have the same scene and shot flipped. We have the same performance, and then our character and line are switched. Like that's
and because I guess I didn't even think of the funeral as a shot. Like whenever you said that, and I'm like, the shot, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, that really is like Really, like from the
and
tent
it's a beautiful
all the
shot.
way to the car is a single shot, and
Yeah,
like,
and it's
wow,
fucking gorgeous, man.
that is great. And I chose it for the scene because I was thinking of like the beauty of, like what it meant for them, what like the journey they were going through. Like it was really the moment that they actually went on their spiritual journey. And then my shot where I'm like, yeah, letting go of all their baggage and getting on the train is probably really the scene, really, because like that, I don't know, but I'll keep it the way I first had it down. Just
furthermore about that funeral, one of the things that makes that moment so fucking special is because there's a contemplation of whether or not they deserve, like all of them. I know I said it specifically for Jack. He's like, would y'all still be friends with me if we weren't brothers? All of them are questioning whether or not they are deserving of love. Like if there's appreciation and acceptance, am I doomed because I'm some sort of terrible person? And for when they're saying goodbye, for everyone in the village to come say goodbye to them and give them that bow, it gives them this sense of like, you know what? Maybe we aren't as terrible as we think. These people had more reason than anybody to not like us. We returned to their doorstep with one of their children dead, they'd never met us, and we greeted them with one of their children having died. And still, there was an appreciation for them that they haven't felt anywhere else. And that's like I fucking love this movie, and there's just there's so much to enjoy about it. I really do love there's so many great lines, so many great little moments, what did he say? He said the train is lost. How can a train be lost? It's on rails.
That was the fucking like what?
And then like less funny but like still meaningful. Like Rita, what's wrong with you? And being like, I'll think about that, and I'll let you know next time I see you. Like Jack's just got the fucking bars in this one, man. He's fucking. Yeah. He's the writer, he's writing out here. He's got the shit to say. It's man, yeah, I love me some Jack.
I felt like the ones I remembered were, would we be would we still be friends? Or the one at the very end when he was like, the characters are all made up, but thanks, he finally is okay with that. But no, like, I don't know. I underappreciated Jack, I think. And I didn't appreciate him until now. Like I really, I don't know, like it was pretty easy to appreciate Francis and oh my god, how
Peter?
Adrian Brody is the only thing that pops up in my head. Yeah, Peter is not sticking quite yet, but Peter, I feel like there's just so much to their story, and they're just they're not as goofy, like Jack is like kind of goofy and a little strange like the whole time, and a little, I don't know, but man, it's every brother just has their own little thing, and they all have their own
little relationships. Like I love that whenever Francis gets up and walks away to go talk to Brandon at the beginning, Peter turns to Jack and goes, she's pregnant. I'm gonna have a kid in 6 weeks. Don't tell Francis. Like that's just like,
yeah.
Why the fuck? Why not tell Francis? He's like, you can't know, just not yet, And then he tells him anyway, and he's like, you told him? And he's like, yeah, of course I told him. And he's like, okay, fine, not that big a deal, but like all these little things
that I have his passport or whatever. But then like
the passports, again, the importance of the little trinkets and the little baubles and the little things. Whenever another little thing that just gets me, man, is when Owen Wilson tries to hand them back their passports, and Peter goes, why don't you hold on to that for me, man? Like he's willing to, again, comes back to that acceptance. Yeah, it's not just that, like, it's accepting Francis for the way he is. He's like, you know what? That's just who you are, and I love you for that, man. How about you hold on to mine? Because I'm down to ride with you now, man, and I'm sorry that I wasn't before. And there's so much loaded into these tiny gestures. There's something about the character building that Wes Anderson is capable of that I can't fully comprehend.
I think that's what it boils down to, is that we are just sitting with him through these casual, funny, and random scenarios, that we do just understand their personalities better. That it's not like a scene written to show you exactly why Francis is nitpicky and a control freak. It just shows you naturally through what they would normally do throughout, I don't know, the day to day.
Play with, 'cause you're playing with fire.
Man, the soundtrack to this movie.
This one goes nuts.
Yeah, like just a lot of just known songs.
The little the Darjeeling theme is what I would define it as, the one that kind of played throughout the movie. Incredible. The credit song, the French credit song, is so fucking good.
Every movie that he has made, I stick around for the I'm just sitting there and I'm just like I can't look away.
Well, because it's a part of it. Somehow it's a part of the fucking movie.
Yeah,
and you're like, it's not like. And I hate to say, I don't stick around for credits often, just because, like, I don't know, I got time on my hands. You know, there's 10 minutes of credits here. That's 10 minutes extra I can have.
More for the actual person that worked on it to see their name, not for us to be like, oh, Rachel Smith. Oh, fuck yeah, I can't believe I loved your work as a or whatever. But
and that's the thing, is that like they deserve that love, and that's why they're there at all. But like that's the thing, is that it's I'm glued to it. You know, there's something electric about the way that he handles these cut to credit moments, and I don't know. I just really, really appreciate it. I'm trying to think. If there's any. There are a few lines that I really, really appreciated in this movie, and you know, it kind of encapsulated as a part of my scene. But again, like that line that Francis says when he takes off all his bandages, and he's like, "I guess I've still got some healing to do." You know, like that's the most in your face, telling you what the movie is about, sort of thing. You know, like I guess I've still got some healing to do, but you're getting there. You know, and
was that on purpose? Did I catch that right, or did I like his crash? That his whole I thought because there was one when he was describing, he's like, I remember little details of rain. I was going 50 miles an hour, skid off the road, then my face hit the mount, blah blah blah, and he just explained all of it. Then I felt like there was maybe with the mom when he was like, yeah, I purposefully drove into that hill or something like that, or maybe I just caught it wrong. But I don't know. I swear it was because he got says, yeah, and for a second there was total silence, then bam, the bike crashed into the ground, exploded, caught on fire, and then I smashed into the side of the hill with my face. I was driving home. I live alone right now. Anyway, 2 joggers start. Yeah, it was whenever he was first describing it, and then he referred to it again, and I swear it was because the mom responds, I'm sorry to hear that. I remember it was to the mom whenever he did say it. Man, I felt like it was like a suicide attempt or something like that.
No, I think you're right. I think I do think you're right. I think there's a layer to that I hadn't previously considered. Yeah, no, it's and that's a common trait of having depression in general, is that control aspect, trying to dictate every single minute of every single day, because if you don't know what you're going to do, sort of thing, you know, like that's and that's, you know, I guess I've still got some healing to do. I think I didn't consider that might have been because he attempted suicide, and I do think you're right. It's subtle, it's almost offhand,
and I think he's the funny one. They're always trying to keep things ahead, and I think that's why I like Francis the most as a character, is because if I'm right on that, and I'm not picking up on that wrong, he only brings it up at the very end, and then the mom is like, "Oh wow, I'm so sorry," but then I think you get Peter and Jack looking at him kind of "Wait, what? Wait, you didn't? That's not what you told us." You know, I don't know. I don't know if I'm remembering wrong, but it just makes his character even more wanting to go out in a similar way to his father. You know, an accident on the road. You know, he's doing. I don't know. It's it adds a whole nother layer there, and I just didn't want to be wrong and put that onto his character, and then it's oh no, this was just a freak accident.
No, I think you're right. I definitely do, and I think there's even more to consider there with Jack's response after he says, "I guess I've still got some more healing to do." Where he says, "You're getting there, though." Like it's like I love you, man, and I'm like, and that would further prove why this trip is so important to him. You know why it's so important that they bond, that he connects with his family, that we confront our past and we move forward together. And they need to, it's Peter and Jack who kind of need to be shocked into realizing that that's the case, and that's the death of the boy that kind of makes them realize, oh shit, I need to appreciate the people I have in my life now, or they'll be gone. I think Owen Wilson's Francis had already realized that, because
he was the one who organized the trip. He's like, we need to do this now. We need, he was like, yeah, let's do this now. And we're doing, I don't know. So I think, and I was trying to find it in the movie just to make sure, because I didn't want to leave it like open in the air, but I couldn't find the line.
I think you got a proper read on that. I don't think you misinterpreted anything. I think you're on the nose about that. I can't believe I didn't pick that up after a few watches, but yeah, no, I got a reason to watch it for a fourth time.
Oh, well, I will definitely be revisiting. That's for sure. I'm not only going to watch this movie once and then quit. That's never going to happen. I feel like this would be a very common movie that I watch every now and then.
No, this is one of the reasons I love Letterboxd. If you log movies, it keeps track of your stats on the year, like what movies you've watched the most, and what your highest rated stuff is, and it has like milestones. It's like the 50th movie you watched this year, the 100th, the whatever. Okay. And this movie is now tied for my most watched this year, the Darjeeling Limited, 3 times, along with Raiders of the Lost Ark. Love that movie. So it's one I just frequently revisit in a comfort capacity. But the Darjeeling Limited, man, that one's working it up there as an option, and Wes Anderson is my most watched director this year at 10 films.
I'd say I have 3 of him, and I'd say that's already enough to make it my most watched director of the year.
Yeah. And then my most watched actors because of Wes Anderson. Michelle Yeoh is topping my list right now at 15. And there's a few before this, but Bill Murray has 9. Owen Wilson has 8, Willem Dafoe at 7, Angelica Houston at 6, Jason Schwartzman at 6. They all, he's got that team. And this was the first time you'd seen Jason Schwartzman in one of these movies so far. But he did work with him on Rushmore, which was the movie before Royal Tenenbaums. So so
this is all, everyone's come back.
Everyone's coming back. This was the first time that all 3 of them worked together on the same movie. Because this was his first time working with Adrian Brody, and I don't believe Owen Wilson was in Rushmore. So all 3 become frequent cast members of Wes Anderson, but this is the first time they got the chance to work on the same movie together, and they're playing brothers kind of impeccably. And it is hilarious whenever they cast brothers with Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson right there. And not casting Luke Wilson as Owen Wilson's brother is kind of hilarious.
I think the point of it was to make him seem all so different, though.
It was for sure. So, and that's kind of that's the thing with all of these too, is that in the Royal Tenenbaums, Luke Wilson played one of the Tenenbaums, and Owen Wilson played Eli across the street. He's not a family member. They were in the movie Bottle Rocket together in 1996, and they're friends. They're best friends. They're not brothers. So I think they're trying to suspend. He's trying to make you suspend belief more so than being oh yeah, duh, they're brothers. No, he's trying to make it a little bit more complicated than that. And frankly, I think that these casting choices for these roles were perfect. I do eventually, and this is something I want you to think about. Once we get to the French Dispatch, I haven't asked a question, a question of the episode for any of these. And it's because once we get to the French Dispatch ahead of Asteroid City, and this is something you can think on for a while, what actors would you like to see in Wes Anderson movies?
Apart from who we have.
Apart
like,
from what we've seen.
Okay,
like
gotcha.
Someone who has never been in a Wes Anderson movie, to your knowledge, who would you like to see in a Wes Anderson movie? And just, you can think on that for the next couple weeks. I might ask you for like a top 5, 5 actors you would love to see in a Wes Anderson movie. Because there's that's the thing, is that, like I said, Adrien Brody, my perception of him has shifted so much because of Wes Anderson movies. I most recently we saw him in the 52-year journey through film as the love interest in King Kong, and we were kind of dismissive of him as an actor then. Like, we were like, yeah, he did a good job, but like, what are we going to give Adrien Brody in the King Kong movie an award over Leo and The Departed or whatever the fuck, no, it's just not how it's going to go. But in the last few months, getting to know Adrien Brody in Wes Anderson movies, and in the show Poker Face, also fantastic in that. I view him as a much better actor than I previously had, and same with Owen Wilson. And there are just so many actors who I think would work so well in his context. And one that I didn't realize, who all of a sudden just made perfect sense in one, Gene Hackman as Royal Tenenbaum. That's a guy who is like, I wouldn't have pegged him for the Wes Anderson vibe, and then he knocked that out of the fucking park.
Yeah, so it might not be someone who you'd expect. It could just be really I don't know. Maybe that's the point. It could be anyone. It could
exactly, and that's why it's a fun question. You think
even
about
like a Jack Black.
Yeah, Jack. Jack Black would probably knock this fucking
someone who you think only has their role and like that's all they do for their movies, but then like you get someone like Wes to, I don't know, open them up and show you what they can really do, or I don't know, something like that. But that's the only one who's coming to mind, I guess, right now would be Jack Black. I don't have any more, but I will be thinking on that. That is very interesting. But I don't know. I do. It does make sense that he does stick with the same people, because then it's just like you get
your feel
how
for
they make the movies,
team,
what they want out of them. Yeah, and so it does end up making for better movies overall. Because at the end of the day, you really want to not see the actor.
You want to see the character.
You want to see the character. So like, if ideally it'd be nice to have nobodies in movies all the time, but that's just, I don't know. They're not good. That's the reason we have the same people, is because they're really good at what they do.
And they get good at working with the people they work with, and that's, yeah. No, man, I ultimately, I adore this movie. I think it's easily my favorite of the ones we've covered so far, which leaves us with the job of giving it a good old-fashioned rating. How are we feeling about it, enjoyment-wise? We gave The Life Aquatic a 9.5.
We did, and I enjoy it more. So it's either a 10 or a 9.75. I just don't know where you're at.
I mean, the way that I always look at this, if you're giving a movie a 10 in enjoyment, it is amongst your favorite movies of all time. I've already stated that it is confidently the case for me. So like, I am more than willing to give this a 10, but if you want to leave room to grow, because I also said I have 2 movies above this, if you want to throw this a 9.75, I would also be comfortable with that, because like, it would be early to give a movie a 10, but
I will say my gut wasn't a 10.
Okay.
But I just don't know where it stands on the rest of my all-time movie list. This is the first time I've watched the movie. Exactly. I'm already giving it a 9.75. That's my like lowest that I'm going, is like really 9.75, because I'm not really tying it with The Life Aquatic here.
I think we should be. I think we should be hesitant to give movies a 10. I think that's fair. So I'm 100% cool with a 9.75 there, and I'm down for rolling with that. But critically, I find myself in a better place than The Life Aquatic as well. I think that visually it was every bit as brilliant, even though it didn't have that signature Wes Anderson-y vibe in the same way. It was I not easily better written, because The Life Aquatic was extremely well written, but like, this is one of my favorite stories and capturing of, sibling dynamics I've ever seen in a movie. So the Darjeeling Limited, it's got an upper hand,
Yeah. Life Aquatic, you get like Steve's, we get like that whole arc, and like it's so satisfying to like just see what he goes through. But this we get like 3 brother arc,
that are
like
it's a good
all great.
arc.
Yeah. Like all super good. So I mean, I was already above Life Aquatic critically as well. For me, my gut was taking me around like a just 9-ish, 9.25 is kind of what I would say. But
I'd be cool with a 9.
Yeah.
I'd be cool with a 9 for sure. So I'm 100% down with that, and that gives this movie a 9.25, which is our second of the day, recording wise. Funny enough.
Wow, puts on the interesting, on the same level.
On the same level as the season 3 finale of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's pretty good though. I mean, hey, that's not bad company to be in.
No, and it's different. Rating television is a bit different than rating movies. But yeah, 9.25 on our old scale, which is better than the IMDb. I can confidently say, on IMDb, this movie received a 7.2 out of 10. So not as well received as we receive it. Let's see. Maybe I start incorporating the Letterboxd rating. That's an important one. It says
Tomatoes. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Tomatoes gives a 78 audience score, but 69% critically.
All right.
There.
And then Letterboxd gives it a 7.6 out of 10, which is 3.8 out of 5.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never really considered that. Wow.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe the prime of 2 Wes Anderson movies before, just to like, because whenever I watch movies, I guess, and I'm coming out of this now, but like I expect so much more, and then whenever I get in the theater and watch a movie, and then it's like not what I expect, and I'm like, oh man, now I'm a little disappointed. But these movies, I'm going in full blind. Like, I know nothing of these movies beforehand, and I just watch it. And that's, like, so much better than...
Absolutely.
Then I don't know, it just makes for so much of a better watching experience and movie experience. And I guess it probably also helps that these movies are just actually really good, too, and not just like a comic book superhero movie that I'm going out to a theater to see. This is what I would consider, like, art. Like I act like this.
Movies.
This is art, and I wouldn't call Marvel movies or something like that art. It still is technically.
There's an art to it, but it's a different thing. It is.
This is art. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, I'm with you, and I can't wait to continue this project because I think if you've been happy about these 3, you're only going to get happier on Friday with fantastic Mr. Fox. This is their first animated movie, first of 2. And it's absolutely incredible. I just watched this last night again, and I will be watching it again before we record on it. So you got that to look forward to Friday. We got Game of Thrones, Winter is Blooming, our Game of Thrones rewatch podcast. That's on Mondays. We just kicked off season 4 this week, and we've got season 4, episode 2 next week. Big one for us, and we will continue this project with the Grand Budapest Hotel and Moonrise Kingdom next week. Moonrise Kingdom on Wednesday, Grand Budapest Hotel on Friday. Ecstatic about that. Head to patreon.com/PennyBloomPod, where you'll find over 50 hours of exclusive content, all sorts of written content, reviews for movies, books, comic books, all of that for $3 a month. You can support this podcast financially, which is huge because it costs me money and I don't make any off of it unless it's over there. So head there. Follow us on Twitter at PennyBloomPod. Follow on Instagram at PennyBloomPodcast, and remember to leave a 5-star rate and review. I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. And I guess I've still got some healing to do.